So again, welcome everyone. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software. And again, I'm joined with Steve Dedman, our Customer Success Manager, who's over in the UK. Welcome to Elevate Your Revit Projects with Ideate Annotate, which is part of the IdeateApps collection. So real quickly, my background is architecture. Many of you know me. I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn and Twitter, and there's my Twitter handle and my LinkedIn information there. Any questions, I'm always happy to answer those questions at richard.taylor@ideatesoftware.com. And of course, Steve is the same as steve.dedman@ideatesoftware.com. And so many of you are familiar with Ideate software, but I always like to put this up here, just basically kind of a brief overview that Ideate software is creating 6 applications for Revit. 5 are sort of built-in add-ins, and our last application is called Ideate Automation, which runs on the desktop but allows you to script many different tasks. And at the bottom there, you see I've got some YouTube playlists, and I wanted to just reference this one. We do have an Ideate Annotate YouTube playlist. So when you click on that, it will basically give you videos specifically for what I'm going to be talking about today, Ideate Annotate. So there are specific ones on the review tab, the browse tab, tagging, and so forth. So I just thought I'd show you that. Always I can make this presentation available so that you know exactly where those links are. But again, you can just go to the overall Ideate software YouTube playlist, search for that, and then you can see the individual playlists underneath that. All of our software has getting started guides, and Ideate Annotate is no exception. Also, all of our software is currently available on Revit 2020 through Revit 2024. We do anticipate that Autodesk is going to be making a new drop of Revit pretty soon, usually in April. So we're hard at work on the next release, which will be Revit 2025. Okay, so I also just want to kind of do a very high-level overview of our solutions that I mentioned. So I like to break them into 2 main categories. The first is around data management, project auditing, model, and data health. And these products all help with those particular Revit workflows. So Ideate BIM Link, allowing you to extract information from the Revit model and send it to Excel. Ideate Explorer, your powerful model browser, also allowing you to review warnings and fix those warnings. Ideate Style Manager, allowing you to manage things like object styles, line styles, materials, parameters, and be able to review if they're used in the project, and if they are used, where are they used, and you can rename them or merge them together to really create a very lean and nimble Revit model. And then finally, Ideate Automation, as I mentioned earlier, is our scripting solution that allows you to run tasks such as a PDF export or maybe a DWG export or IFC at 2 in the morning, as an example. And you can do that on 1 model or 5 models or 10 models, and we're seamlessly integrating with the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So there's more information about all of these on our website. And then the second main category of our products is around Revit model productivity. And here's where we're focusing today with IdeateApps and Ideate Annotate. So IdeateApps is a collection of 10 productivity tools. And then Ideate Sticky allows you to live link Excel, Word, and PDF documents into your Revit project and keep them up to date. So I just kind of wanted to highlight those, our whole portfolio of solutions. So IdeateApps, well, what is IdeateApps? As I mentioned, IdeateApps is a collection of 10 productivity tools for all Revit users. And what I mean by all Revit users is we're sort of agnostic when it comes to whether it's architecture, engineering, construction, the workflows for creating views, as an example, or renumbering elements. It's not specific to a particular discipline. It can be really anyone who's using Revit. Today, we're going to be focusing on Ideate Annotate, which is that I highlighted down below, the review and check annotation on sheets and views, and intelligent Revit tagging with rules. Okay, so now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. What is Ideate Annotate? Well, Ideate Annotate is our latest tool within the IdeateApps collection, and it supports design documentation and quality control activities in Revit through enhanced browse, review, and intelligent tagging. So what I'm going to do today is go through each one of those, the browse tab, the review tag, and the tag, or the review tab, I'm sorry, and the tag tab. And by the way, if you don't see the tag, maybe you have a version of IdeateApps. We just released the tagging tool last fall or last November, I believe. So if you don't see the tag, it means you have an older version of IdeateApps, and I would suggest that you would update to the latest version that's on our website. Okay, we can also expedite production documentation work and review all annotative elements and reduce the liability by ensuring the legibility of tags, dimensions, and other annotative elements. And I'm going to talk about how we can do that with our clashes, annotation clashes, as well as our new tagging rules. So the first tab within the Ideate Annotate dialog is called Browse, right? And it allows you to do many things, browse all 2D annotative elements, but it also allows you to align and distribute text very easily. It allows you to create powerful rules to isolate the exact elements you're going to be looking at. So let's go ahead. As this slide says, let's take a look. I'm going to switch over here to Revit. I'm using the latest 2024 version. Actually, I'm not on 2024.2, but it is. This is Revit 2024. I always like to kind of just explain a little bit. This data set was the one that was delivered with the last release of Revit, and this is the Snowden data set. So it's a commercial building that has retail on the first floor and some condominiums on the upper floor. And so I'm going to be using that both actually for architecture and MEP. So we have this stair detail, and I've got some tasks that need to be done when it comes to annotating this particular detail view in Revit. So if you go to the Ideate software ribbon panel, you will notice that here is where you'll find all the Ideate software tools, including IdeateApps. And here is Ideate Annotate. And like I said, if you, for some reason, if you don't see it, it just means that you have an older version, and I would encourage you to update to the latest. So we're going to select Ideate Annotate. The first tab is Browse, and it's going to look at the active view. So quickly, just like if you're familiar with Ideate Explorer, it's telling me the number of elements that I have. I have 14 detail items, I have 2 generic annotations, 3 lines, and so forth. I can look at this for the entire view or the entire project, right? So now it's actually looking at 15,000 elements. And you see I can also look at open views, active views. This is kind of cool. You can say create new, and I can say, well, you know what? I want to create a new display rule. So I'm going to say next. So as an example, I might call this level views. And here is where maybe the property I'm going to look for is the view name, right? And so the view name maybe contains L, because I have levels, right? And so you see over there to the left on the project browser, L1, L2, and so forth. So I'll just go ahead and say that's the rule, right? And just say save and close. So now what it's going to do is just show me those annotations. I still have 11,000, but it's only looking at views that are the level plan views is what I have, right? And I can always use this little pencil here to edit that and change that condition and add other Revit properties as I see fit. So I'm going to actually change that back to my active view, okay? And so I've got these items on my active view. You can see that next item is I can sort by category or view. I typically like to do the category. And then the filter, these are rules, and I'm going to show you how to build this in a moment, but I've already created some filter rules. One of them is dimensions with overrides. And you might say, well, what is that? I can look at the rule and it says, okay, a dimension has a value override, which is equal to true. So it means that someone has overridden a dimension. And in fact, there it is. So if I go ahead and double click, I can zoom into that. And I can say, well, that's not part of my standard, right? I don't want that to be 4 inches max. I want to use the actual value of 3 3/8. So I select OK. And then when I refresh, you'll notice that there are no conditions or elements that meet that filter anymore, dimensions with overrides. So let's go back here and just say none again to switch that back. Now, I can also, just like with ID8 Explorer, I can select or clear the selection by selecting none. Now, my next point with this browse is I would like to look at some of these notes. And just to let you know, what this particular note here, I've actually pinned, okay? So what I've done is I created a filter, and I'm gonna say removing pinned and still text. And when I look at that filter, what it basically said is pinned is false, and the text note contains the word steel. So it's gonna look for all of those. So it basically bypasses anything that's pinned. So when I do that, it actually tells me that there are all these text notes, and you see it highlights these just right above the steel plate. So now that I've got those text notes, I can decide that I'd like to distribute them vertically or horizontally. And this, because of the way that they're located, it makes sense to distribute them equally vertically. So I'm going to do that. Does it great. Then I have the ability to align left, right, center, middle, top, bottom. I'm going to select the align left, and I'm going to go back to my pinned item here. So now all of them are perfectly aligned with my pinned steel plate riser. So, that's allowing me to, I just wanted to show you that you could build a nice filter rule, and then you can select the pieces of text or tags, and then you could align them very easily. You can also use ID8 query. So if you wanted to select on items, let's go back to here, I'm going to say all in this view. If I wanted to specifically query items that meet a particular property for text notes, and again, I can say maybe text, right? So the text itself, right? So I only want to highlight the ones that say steel handrail as an example, and I can select that one. So, I mean, of course, we're showing the text here as well, but there are other times where you may want to highlight a particular property. So the fact that we have both the ID8 query as well as the powerful filtering tools really gives you a lot of power with ID8 Annotate. Okay, so that was a quick look on Browse. The next one I love, and it's called the ID8 Review tab. Well, what exactly is review? Well, review is going to show you issues or problems, right? And this is where I've highlighted, zero link dimensions, annotation clashes, blank tags, duplicated tags. And by the way, I put this help link in here. I'm going to click on that. If you click on that help link, you will notice that it goes right to our help for under ID8 Annotate, under IdeateApps, Annotate, Issues. And I love that each one of these talks about well, what exactly is an unexpected keynote? Well, keynotes that are not referenced in the project file can still exist in the project file. So it kind of explains each one in detail, and it explains sort of, why you want to review that and how you want to fix it. So I just really like that that's being shown in our help. So let's take a look at the next slide here, and let's take a look. So I'm going to switch back over here to Revit. Okay, and I'm going to switch to the another view here. This is the kitchen plan. And we'll just cancel that. Why does that always pop up when the least I expect it? And notice that ID8 Annotate is similar to many of our other applications in the fact that it's non-modal. Just like ID8 Explorer and many of our view tools, you can work in Revit and you can open views and you can do manipulations. I can select on things, and I can still have that window open or the dialog open either on this view, or I might have it on a second screen as an example. Okay, so I've gone over, I'm going to select on my review tab, and it's looking at issues. And by the way, for review, I typically recommend that you do it kind of view by view. You can do it for everything, the entire project, but that's a lot of issues that may be in your entire project. So that's why either active view or you can see that I can use my as an example, my level views, the one that I created earlier. But this is showing me that I've got 13 issues. Okay, I've got a zero link dimension. Just like Ideate Explorer or Quick Select, I'm going to double click and it goes right to it. Well, why did that happen? Well, what happens is sometimes you make a dimension and then you align maybe a piece or an element like a door to a corner of a wall or whatever, and all of a sudden the dimension becomes zero because you did that alignment. So we don't want to have that zero link dimension. That doesn't make sense. So right here from the Ideate Annotate menu, I can select delete and I can remove that. And there that goes away. And so then I can get on to the next one, annotation clashes. So let's go here. This is a really nice one that you can select like, okay, here's a wall tag that is conflicting with a dimension. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to move that. And even though I moved it, what I still need to do is refresh this. You see there's a little refresh here, and then that particular issue will go away. And you might say, well, how does it know the clashes? You see when I'm highlighting the actual wall tag, there's a bounding box around that. And there's a bounding box around the actual dimension itself. We can control that. If I go over here to my settings, you'll notice that under the settings, I have a clash sensitivity. And by default, this is set. You see, if I set it over here to the left, I'm going to get more results, or over to the right, fewer results. So basically, that's just sort of either expanding or contracting how it's looking at that bounding box, basically. But it starts with that bounding box. So you might want to move that sensitivity if you're not getting the clashes you expect. Okay, well, let's do this one, a blank tag. So I come over here and I can see pretty quickly, well, the reason it's 4 blank tags is because they're all referencing this wall, and this wall doesn't have a type mark. So here's where I was saying, I can still have the menu or the dialog open. I can go edit the type wall. I can come over here and select that I want the type mark to be, and I'll use my initials because they're so fabulous. So now I've filled that in, and it's actually referencing all those 4 walls. So when I refresh, you will see that that one goes away. Now, duplicate tags, we can look at this. I look at this as more of a warning in the sense that, yeah, okay, this wall was tagged twice, but maybe for some reason I do want that. Or I've noticed sometimes, like when there's a long corridor, you have duplicate tags because we've done a room tag on each end of the long corridor. So maybe that's okay. So what I can do is click on the duplicate tags, and I can come over here. And by the way, I can access this either through the menu, or I can right click and say dismiss issue. So it just means that, hey, Ideate Annotate, don't show it to me. I'm okay with it. I'm going to keep going through my conditions here. But I can always get back to it. I can always come over here and look at my dismissed issues in my filter. And you can see there it is, the duplicate tags. So, that automatically becomes part of that filter. And you can see here, this is pretty simple. Elevation markers are marks with no elevations, hidden by element, orphan tags. We just talked about that within the help. I won't go through every single one of these. Unexpected, keynotes. This is kind of cool, is like other not visible. So there's a couple things here. There's keynote tags, right? And when it says others not visible, let's look at this one here. Or actually, let's look at the wall tag. I'm sorry, because and I double click and it doesn't show me, because if it was hidden in the view by either the like right click, hide in view, or maybe the visibility graphics, like the view template, that particular category has been turned off, it can basically go and automatically turn on the reveal hidden elements. But in this case, it's not giving me that option to do reveal hidden elements. And by the way, let me just show you that. Hidden by element, right? So let's do this, double click. Notice this is what I'm talking about. The element is hidden in this view. Would you like to temporarily show hidden elements? And I can figure out where it's at. But this one, it didn't give it to me because there's something else going on. It's a little bit more complicated. Well, when it's a little bit more complicated, we have our trusted ID8 Xray. So right here from Ideate Annotate, I can launch ID8 Xray. And I can say, well, okay, it automatically puts the wall tag in the Xray selection. I can say, find the element. Why isn't that wall tag displaying. And it's telling me, this is pretty, I said self-explanatory or makes sense. Well, it's the tag's not displaying because the element is not displaying. So I need one more. I'm going to hit this fix to find out, well, why isn't the element not displaying? And it's going to come back and it's going to say, oh, it's outside of the view range. So I need to change the view range of this particular plan. Notice that I always loved showing this more info. Again, this goes out to our website where with ID8 Xray, there's a lot of information like what does it mean to be outside of the primary view range, right? It has these nice little graphics. If you're in a reflected ceiling plan, what is the view depth? What is the primary range? How would you go about actually going to the plan and fixing that or changing say the view direction or the region and so forth. So it's giving you a lot of information there with ID8 Xray. Okay, so let's say let me see where we're at here. And I think I've actually kind of fixed a lot of the things that I kind of wanted to fix here for this particular item. So again, you just keep going through and you want to make sure that, you kind of fix all the things that need to be fixed for your annotations within this particular view, or you decide that you want to dismiss them. Maybe for right now, I can just say, well, that unexpected keynote, I'm not going to worry about. I can always come back to it later when I look at the filter for my dismissed issues, right? So let's go over here and I'll just say none again and back to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, the final tab within Ideate Annotate is called Tag. And as I said, this is a relatively new feature that we added last November. The tag differs from the the Revit tag all not tag, because when you do the tag all not tag within Revit, basically it does sort of everything of that category. Like if you say, oh, I want to do all ductwork, it's going to do all ductwork, right? You don't have the choice. But with the intelligent tagging, we are now able to say, like, we want only ductwork that's over a certain length or under a certain length, or it matches a particular type mark, or it matches a particular property or characteristic. Okay, let's take a look at this. So let's switch back over here to Revit. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to switch to the project browser here, and I'm going to do this view. And I'm going to start out with sorry, kind of to all the MEP people, an architectural example, but I'll get to an MEP example here in a second. So by the way, this one says, hey, good job. There are no issues. Don't we like to see that when there are no issues? But this case, I'm going to go over to the tagging rule, right? And in this case, I'm going to select that I want rooms ignore small. Actually, but before I do that, I want to make sure that that is the right, it's actually getting the right characteristics for me. So I want to go over to manage rules, rooms ignore small, and I want to edit that. Okay, so this is actually looking for areas greater than 10 square feet. This is a imperial project. Just to show you, and usually that doesn't get me too much as far as it just kind of shows me sort of closet areas. So I'm going to make this larger, 600 square feet. Notice that you can also specify what type of tag, which is not really cool. So you could say, oh, rooms that are smaller than 600 square feet, give me just a standard room tag. Rooms that are larger than 600 square feet, give me a tag with area. You can see that I'm going to select the reference point, but I can also do a leader line and a offset for that leader line, which I'm going to do when I do ductwork here in a second. So right now I'm just going to keep the reference. The reference point is that X in the room for the room element itself. So you see here, it's going to be greater than 600, and we've also got a phase sequence where it's equal to 2, which is the second phase of the project. Okay, so we're going to say okay, and we're going to now notice that I can actually include elements in all open views, or I can include elements from linked files, meaning that if I want to tag rooms in my parent file, where the wall or the room bounding elements may be in the linked file, I can do that. But in this case, I'm going to select rooms ignore small. I'm going to say remove existing tags. It gives me a preview of the room. So it's not going to do this room here, the 2-story unit, but it is going to do this live work unit. And when I say add tags, notice that now it added the tag. So this one has the room tag with the square footage. This one didn't get changed because it was under 600 square feet. So really, really powerful. Let's switch back over here to some other examples here. So another kind of showing when you're using the tag all, not tag, in Revit with casework, it's just going to do all the casework. And as you see here in this image, it does basically it selects the tags or places the tags at the centroid of the elements, which may not be what you want. But using Ideate Annotate with our intelligent tagging, you can specify that you want the tag along the top for the upper casework elements, and you want the tag along the bottom for the lower casework elements. And then not only can you do that, but you can actually do that through a sheet. So here's an example. This is a little video that actually Steve created where it's showing the casework on the sheet. So it's a view on the sheet, and he's tagging separately the upper casework and the lower casework. And so, I think this is so nice that you're able to have multiple views on a sheet and be able to tag, elements or items within those views on the sheet. So now we've got both the upper and lower casework that's been tagged. And then, as I said, we can also look at linked models. So information, like if you want to tag rooms from the MEP or tagging rooms using elements from the MEP linked model. So you can see I can tag that, include elements in all open views and elements from the linked model itself. And we're going to go ahead and select those rooms, ignore small, and be able to select and create new rooms in both views. And again, just some other examples with the Revit tag all, not tagged, right? If I wanted to tag walls, basically it comes up with 188 tags. And it gets all walls, both regular walls and curtain walls. There's only one choice for the tag position and orientation. So this is kind of what you see on the screen here on the left, or the image itself. But using Ideate Annotate with our intelligent tag, we can get that down to 50. So in this particular case, I've said ignore curtain walls, ignore walls with no type mark, ignore walls that are located in groups, ignore walls with certain type marks that I may want to exclude, and then I also want to refine the leader length. Okay, so it gives you a much cleaner, more refined selection. And then here's with MEP, another example. Again, you can tag elements that are only selected as part of the rule, and you can batch add tags to multiple views at once. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that. You can see here's the sort of example of length is greater than 4 feet. The slope is less than 15. So if we switch over here back to Revit, and I'm going to go over here to my L2. So here we are in the MEP model. And so what I've done here is I've selected, just so again, you always access the rules by going to the little settings cog, and you can go over here to manage rules, and you ducks long, and the little pencil is the edit, so edit the rule. And so you can see what I've done here is I've created a leader line. It's a 1/2 inch. The orientation, you can select either model or horizontal, vertical. I'm going to do model. So it's going to look at the element, how it's represented in the model. So you can see that the length is greater than 4 feet. The phase is also the second phase, and the slope is less than or equal to 15. So you see that this is what I've set up. And again, I can change the position here of where the tags are. And I'm going to say, actually, I didn't change anything. So we'll just say cancel here. And cancel. And so ducks long, it highlights those ducks that are going to be tagged, right? Not all of them. Notice the ones that are like this was under 4 feet. It's not going to tag that one. And so I can go ahead and say add tags. And there's always this option here to remove existing tags as you tag, which I like. It's kind of like you're replacing them, right? You can also do an override. This override allows you to change the tag type, right, on the fly, or the leader line or the leader length. So for instance, if I wanted to change this to 1/4 inch as an example, I could do that and say add those tags. So now it's going to tag, and you see that And let's see if I can get an angle. I probably don't have an angle one here that's at the angle I'm looking for. Oh yeah, here's like this one. See how this is what I mean by its model. So this 4 feet or 4 inches, I'm sorry, is is actually it's reflected of the model characteristic. It's not horizontal. It's not vertical. So that's what it meant by being model. So again, very powerful, being able to set up these characteristics basically and be able to apply them and then save them in your project. So really, just to reiterate here, going to the settings, the settings will basically tell you, where are the rules located and what's the clash sensitivity and whether the leader line you see either middle, offset, or none, right? So there's some settings here. And then the second one is actually allowing you to look at manage the rules, right? So this, you can create new rules, you can edit, you can export or import as well. So if you've got a lot of rules from one project you want to use on another project, it's very easily to export that to a file and then import that to another project. Okay. So in summary, Ideate Annotate really allows you to improve the design documentation and quality control activities in Revit through enhanced browse, as we saw, the browse tab, the review, allowing you to review issues, and intelligent tagging workflows. And you can expedite production documentation work with access to all of the annotative elements and being able to see those annotative elements sort of differently than you can even within Ideate Explorer or Ideate Quick Select, and sort of isolate those is really helpful. And then, of course, being able to ensure the legibility, things like with the Ideate clash detection, as well as being able to tag elements, like I said, using model characteristics or horizontal or vertical and offset. So what I'd like to do right now is just pause and actually open up the floor to Steve and see if there's any questions that I can answer.
Hi, Richard. So yeah, just one question so far, and that is from Alma Silver. It said, is there a way to rotate text when tagging duct design?
Ooh, you know what? I'm going to put you on the spot, Steve, because you're the MEP expert.
Thanks.
So I know. So when you're tagging text, like the actual, I guess, duct name, is that what you mean? So like in this case, I guess, like in this case, this was the tag, right? This was the
that's done it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's rotated it. Yeah.
So if we come over here, and again, I'm going to look at the manage the rules, right, for that ducts long and edit that. This is the duct sizing. That's the only tag I really have loaded, unfortunately, in this. So if I had a tag that had text associated with it, like maybe the name of the duct, it should be rotated according to the model element using this orientation.
Yeah, I mean, and there's the function within the family as well to rotate with component. That may need to be checked so that when you place the tag, it's going to rotate the same direction as the duct work. Maybe that's the question.
Okay, yeah, I'd have to look at, like, unfortunately, I only have this one tag located or loaded into this MEP model. So in this case, it's just basically, it doesn't have a lot of text associated with it. It's just this. And by the way, I should ask, that's not 4 inches, is it? That symbol is for something else, isn't it, Steve?
No, that's inches. That is inches, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what that was.
No,
or maybe it's the slope or something is what it's, because it's actually, maybe it's the diameter. I'm just trying to think of what it actually is.
That's the diameter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not tagging the length, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's the diameter. Yeah, that's the diameter of the duct.
Okay.
Yep.
You can tell I'm woefully inadequate when it comes to MEP tagging information. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple more come in. This one from Bethany Pritchard. Is there a way to find views with hidden elements?
Yeah, well, okay. that is a great question. What we're able to do if I come back over here to this cafe kitchen plan and review, it's going to show you annotative elements that have been hidden. Okay, maybe not all elements. So I guess the question, to answer your question, review will show you any annotative elements that have been hidden either by right-click, hide in view, either by, let's say you've turned off a particular category so it's not displaying, or as I showed you with ID8 Xray, maybe it's outside of the view range. But right now, it's only showing you that for annotative elements. Like it's not going to show you, as an example, if there's no issues with a sink, like why isn't the sink displaying? That's where you would use ID8 Xray. So, and for those of you that are not familiar, let me just go real quickly here. So in this case, what I mean by Xray, I'm going to double click on this and go to this view and fit this. So it says, okay, well, why is this sink missing, right? It's not displayed. So here is where you can use, it's also part of the IdeateApps collection. You can use ID8 Xray. You can search for a small area and say next, select by crossing, come over here. It's going to show you all elements that are both displayed and not displayed in the view. So you come to plumbing fixtures, you're going to come to the sink, barrier free, that's the one we're looking for that's not displaying. You select next and find the element. And it's going to go through over 50 checks to tell you why that element's not displaying. And in this case, it's hidden by category, but unfortunately, it's also telling me that the category is being driven by a view template, so I can't just change it. That's why there's not a fix here. So in this case, I would want to go to the properties here of the view and say, oh, well, that view template was incorrect, or maybe I say I want to select none, right? Then once I do that, I have the ability then to go down to the plumbing fixtures and turn that category on since it's not being driven by a view template. And then it's also hidden by element, and I can just select fix. And then now there's that sink that's displaying. So it will tell you if it's outside of the cut range, if it's in a design option, if it's in a closed work set, if it's a discipline mismatch. Like I said, there's quite a few checks that we're doing. So hopefully that helps answer that question about showing elements.
I'm guessing the way I read it is there a way to kind of produce a list of all your views and show if there's any with hidden elements?
Well, again, I'll go back to
Explorer or BIM link, but yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can do that with the review annotative elements, but not globally.
Model elements.
That is something actually I know we've been asked about that before, and we've looked at different ways of doing that or implementing it. So that's a very good suggestion. I mean, we've done it with the annotative elements. So I can, look at, like I said, in this case, all these that are not visible, right? Door tags, generic annotations, stair paths, and wall tags are not visible in this view, but it's not showing me model elements. But great question.
Okay. Great question. One from Miguel asking, are the rules, this is tagging rules I'm suggesting, are the rules saved on users' local model copies, or are they saved to central for others to see? So if I create a rule and sync my model, would that be available for other users in the model?
Well, then the answer is yes to both questions. And the reason I say that is because the rules can be stored in a shared network directory, right? By default, they are on your local drive under program data. You see here IdeateApps, but you could browse to a Dropbox folder, or you could browse to a network folder and save the rules there, and then everyone would have access to them. The same thing with Ideate Explorer when it comes to like the warnings. Those can be saved to a network drive, or a lot of times people are, if you're using the Autodesk Construction Cloud, you might be using the desktop connector from Autodesk. So there's a folder that for that particular project on the desktop connector. And if you navigate to that using the desktop connector and you save it, then that would be synced within the Autodesk Desktop Connector folder for your Autodesk Construction Cloud project. That's a lot of text there, isn't it?
I mean, and so also if you created you loaded a tag, you say you loaded a rule for tagging and saved it in the model, is that available for other, is that saved in the model, I think is the question. So it'll be there for other team members.
Yes, the rules are saved in the project when you do a sync with Central, so that would be available for other team members within that same project. But as I said, you can come over here to manage rules and you can then export and import. So you'd want to export to your saved, let's say, network drive, and then the other person could just import the rule and then they would have it available to them. So you have the option to save the rule within the project, but of course also save the rule externally so that could be loaded into other projects.
One from Jennifer. Do the tags still work with schedules when making changes or adding tags? Not quite sure what you mean there, Jennifer.
When the schedules. Well, I mean, the tags that we're using, I mean, they're just Revit families, right? They're Revit tags. So we're not doing anything, we're not creating special tags per se. We're using the existing tags, but we're placing them in a very, let's say, in smart way, in the sense that we're, like, as an example, we're doing walls, but we're only doing walls that match maybe, I don't know, that have a type mark of PL4, as an example, like in this case. So you could tag, use your particular wall tag that you set up, but tag only walls that have PL4. So it's not necessarily unique to the tag, but it allows you to specify which elements you want tagged using those intelligent rules. So I guess getting back to like anything that's showing up as a tag in a schedule would be the same as it would be within Revit. We're not changing anything when it comes to the tag itself. So hopefully that makes sense.
And another one, is there a way to automatically center room instances? So I'm guessing that's the reference point, yes.
Yeah, so let me go back to the tag rooms. I'm actually on that. Well, let's go here. Let's say manage rules. Rooms ignore small. Let's look at that. So in this case, I would untick reference, and then this would be the center, right? As opposed to like along the top of the room or the lower left. But if I had right here in the center, it's going to be the centroid of the room. This one, reference, is wherever that X mark is, which could be, you could have pulled that around to actually be, kind of the lower left area of the room. That's where it's going to insert the tag. But if you want it to be the centroid of the room, you would do this, pick that in the center. All right, well, I think we are about at the 45-minute mark. I wanted to be very respectful of your time. I appreciate you joining us today on this webinar. Again, I can't stress highly enough, if you are an Ideate software customer, please make sure that you have the latest updates that we did in November, because this will give you all access to the tagging rules that I showed today. So you can just go to ideatesoftware.com/download to make sure that you have the latest and greatest. Also, as I mentioned a little while ago, there's a very short survey at the end of this presentation. So when you exit the GoToMeeting, it'll just present you with, I believe, 4 questions. It really helps us, again, focus these particular web presentations to your particular needs and your benefits. And we're always looking for good ideas as well. So with that, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this presentation today. If you're an Ideate software customer, I want to thank you for your business. And I definitely want to thank Steve Dedman for his expert knowledge and specifically around MEP. I know you have a wealth of knowledge there. So
thanks, Richard. No problem. My pleasure.